Hey guys, the next most common composition that was used in HGC is what I call the stall comp. Now the stall comp is kind of a evolved version of the hypercarry composition that we've seen before, where hypercarry usually was double support or double tank, and then they would peel off of an individual and let that person's just sustain damage just keep them rolling the entire time. Now, against a what's really common right now is that blow-up composition that we've been seeing over and over and over. We needed to find out a way to not only counter that, but find a way to kind of deal with it in another way. So the stall composition oftentimes uses two tanks or two supports to try to survive the initial burst of something. Sometimes pseudo supports like a Urel who can give armor to an ally that's about to get bursted and then knock everyone back afterwards. Sometimes pseudo supports that are kind of like Garrosh, someone gets pulled away, they can kind of chuck them back into their team if needed. So that's kind of the general idea of a stall composition, is that they need to have things that can help them survive the burst. And then the next key component is sustained damage. They need to be able to sustain this damage on for a long time, which means that they usually need sustained healing as well. Something that you just can keep healing them throughout the long run, making sure that they can stay in these fights for a long time. And then the final key piece about a stall composition is something for the objective of the map. What that means is if you are on a map like Cursed Hollow or Towers of Doom, you need someone very long range who can stall the objective. If you're on a map like Volskaya, you need something that can stall the objective by just being a force whenever they try to come in. You can knock them away, you can set up traps, you can set up turrets, you can set up something to stall. Okay, these are the three key pieces to a stall composition: is something kind of like a pseudo support to help save from burst, sustain damage and healing, and then something to stall. As long as that you have all three of those, you're in a stall composition. Some of the maps that we've seen these are on Volskaya. Well, it's common to see a stall composition. We see double tank here, helps survive the burst a little bit, sustained healing, as well as sustained damage. I was on Volskaya, so the stall portion of it is the CC that's applied from these. You're afraid to get on the point because you're going to get CC'd. You have Towers of Doom. You have the stall of the Hanzo. You have the sustained healing through this, as well as the double tanks to help survive the burst. We see this sustained stall composition pop up a lot in HGC on maps that you can stall it out, maps that you don't need quick team fights, but instead you want to draw them out as long as possible. And I'm going to show you guys how they play out, and I'm going to show you guys how to counter them. So to start off, this is a game between Gen.g and Team Liquid on Towers of Doom. So I'm going to start this. The first objective is going to be spawning here. And you're going to see very quickly, one, how they stall it out. And you can see they don't have any setup in this team comp. They don't have something that's going to set up for them to all follow up until level 10 when Hanzo has it. So generally, they can't really chase people because they just walk away and get healed. So you can see how they all take turns channeling. And even if you saw this immediately, right as this person was about to get bursted, what happened? You had a knockback from the hammer, then you had a shield from the Tyrael, then you had him where right as the root ends, he hops right over and a stun from Tyrande, back to healing him up and going right back into the stall composition how it should be. They all take turns stalling as everyone goes back and grabs the different healing fountains that they need. They can stall so well that they don't even need the Urel to be there, so Urel can go and soak and get that experience lead back, because as of right now, they're behind by half a level of experience. So they're going to utilize everyone to take turns in actually interrupting. As you can see, the Hanzo is going to easily be able to stall, or almost stall. There we go. Hanzo's able to stall. You have the hammer who's doing the sustained damage they need to kind of get the enemies away. So between the Hanzo and the hammer, they can stall the objective out forever. They can keep doing the sustained damage. While I'm not a big fan of the Tyrande in this comp, I would prefer someone with a little bit more sustained healing. You can see how well this is working. Now, look at that half a level lead that they had before. This Urel has been double soaking really well, getting their experience back up to where it needs to be. And you can see that the objective still hasn't gone one way or another. The stall composition works out so well, even though they don't have any setup for an actual engage. They're just slowly whittling down the enemies, getting rid of all of the enemy's mana, and they're just trying to survive the burst by utilizing shields, knockbacks, CCs, and whatever else they need. And if you see, they're getting a lot of free damage off on Thrall, and now the Diablo feels like he needs to rotate, or else they're going to end up losing out on this camp. They were able to take a good chunk of this camp and get this objective at the same time. And I'll look at the experience right now. They just won the objective. Now they're on the same experience as the enemy team. They were able to take a tower as well as a front wall and the side wall, all during the time that they were stalling out this objective. This is your goal for a stall composition. Now, how do you counter a stall composition? Well, this is kind of the biggest comps that's hard to counter without just using a blow-up comp. A blow-up comp can counter it as long as you ban the pieces that make it hard to, the pieces that counter a blow-up comp. The other major way to counter this composition is to get pieces of their comp away from their team. People like a Stitches who could hook, a Kerrigan who could get them away, maybe even a Diablo if the Diablo can pull people away. And then the final answer to a stall composition is to overwhelm them. To ban out a Tyrael, to take a Blaze from them, and then to use everything and stun them all at the same time and blow them all up at the same time. Things like an Apocalypse combo, Ring of Frost, Void Prison combos, things that can get a lot of AoE stuff done at once, because stall compositions tend to stay very clustered while they're stalling. They tend to be near each other. So if you could get a Graviton to pull everyone in, a Fire Breath, Purification Salvo, anything that can do a huge amount of damage to all of them that they're not prepared for all of a sudden is how you blow up a stall comp. A lot of times people will use Void Prisons to set up things, or to where they use a Sanctification, you use a Void Prison so that the Sanctification ends and they're all grouped up for a Ring of Frost. Any Wombo combo is the best way to counter this, or to just simply pull their pieces away from their team. A lot of times people use Maiev if they get a chance, because Maiev you can kind of turn off a couple pieces, turn off one piece, pull a couple pieces away, your team can blow them up. I've even seen in some really weird open division comps, they've ran Shen and just barreled everyone away from each other and picked them off one by one. So there are a lot of counters to stall compositions, but stall compositions tend to be one of the best counters to the blow-up composition that we've been seeing mostly in the meta this time, and they work great on these particular maps. So hopefully this helped you guys learn a little bit about what the stall comps look like and how to counter them, and so you can try to use these in the future. Thank you all for watching, and feel free to check out my other videos.